Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting us. I know that we are a sponsor, but it's a privilege to come here and present a topic that I have a lot of passion about. I'm NOAM RATHAUS from Beyond Security. I'll be talking today on why security researchers, when they want to publish their findings, publish their work, get money for their work, they find a lot of difficulties and a lot of problems that cause them to not be able to do it. And then I'll also show some solutions and some ways that you as a security researcher can get paid, basically, because this is the end goal of a lot of our researchers. They want to get paid because they want to earn money and obviously have a living based on the things they like. So some kind of background about me. My name again is NOAM RATHAUS. I've been doing security since the age of 13. Just to give you a perspective, it's like 20 and something years, actually 27 years. I wrote 4 books on penetration testing, on fuzzing, on doing security reviews. They're all available on Amazon. They're kind of old now, so they're not really up to date as technologies keep changing all the time, but you can still find them. Back when Nessus was open source, it was a GPL project. I wrote half of the code, a third of the code and half of the tests that Nessus had. I had a strong relationship with the developers and in designing and building the framework of Nessus. When they split into Tenable, obviously we stopped working together because it stopped being open source, but up to that point I was doing a lot of the work that Nessus was using. I found over 40 various vulnerabilities in Flash, in Oracle, Java, in Microsoft Office, in Outlook, in different types of products for web management. I've done a lot of security research on my own. Some background on Beyond Security. We do 3 main things, all related to vulnerability discovery and research. The first one is we work with security researchers, security communities. We hire researchers. We pay them to do their security research. We sponsor their flights, the training courses that they take. We work with the community to do security research. And what we get back from this is the information on the vulnerabilities that they discover, and obviously the PR of this kind of relationship. We do also, as part of the company, offer a solution that does vulnerability assessment. The product is called AVDS. And the last thing is that we do is a commercial grade fuzzer called BStorm, which can be used to test products during the development for security vulnerabilities, uncover them, and obviously you can also sell those vulnerabilities that you uncover using BStorm to us. We don't care how you found the vulnerability, so you can also gain some profit from that. So what do researchers need to do in order to do research? So the researchers spend a lot of time finding vulnerabilities, and then they find something, and then they want to do something with it. They have obviously many ways they can take, many actions they can take. They can do public disclosure without any vendor interaction, probably get into some kind of trouble, some bad hit because they do that. It's called dropping 0 days. They could go with a second option, which is go to the vendor, disclose it responsibly, get the vendor to address it. The problem with that is that in many cases, and I've been doing this kind of project, SSD, for many years now, 7 years to be exact, is that in many cases when you want to disclose something, you get a backfire. You get very negative reaction from the vendor. I'm writing here an email that I got back from one of the vendors that we contacted. We gave him the vulnerability description. We showed him the seriousness of the vulnerability. We gave him a movie that showed the crash, how it's popping calc, and everything. So all he had to do is basically fix it. And the vendor's reaction was that they don't have vulnerabilities. They just recently finished getting certified by Microsoft. No way, they're vulnerable. And this is after I gave them all the information that they needed in order to verify this. And obviously, when you're a security researcher, at this point, you get discouraged. You say, okay, what? I showed him the vulnerability. Why is he saying that there is nothing there? And this is one of the examples I'll show you later on. Another thing that the researcher wants, besides disclosing the vulnerability, is they want to get money. And not, well, maybe because they are greedy, but also because they spend time working on this, and they don't want to give any free bugs, basically, to the vendors. They want to get paid. They want to get famous. They're looking for a job. They want to gain experience. They maybe want to buy tools like IDA, Visual Studio, and those things cost money. They want to buy hardware that allow them to do testing, and all these things cost money, so they want to get paid for their effort. The way that they want to get paid is by contacting the vendor and saying, okay, I found this vulnerability. It's a remote code execution. It's an XSS. It's SQL injection. Doesn't really matter what it is. Give me some kind of compensation for me doing this thing. In many cases, there is no compensation. In many cases, you talk to the vendor. They'll send you silly things, hats, shirts. They'll send you a thank you letter. They'll say to you, okay, thank you for sending this in. We'll consider if we want to give you something back. Because when they send this information, there is no written contract. The vendor got the vulnerability. The researcher sent the vulnerability, but there is no engagement between the researcher and the vendor. The vendor says to himself, I didn't ask for this. The researcher says, I'm sending this hoping for something good, but there is no way for them to work out some kind of agreement. So what should you do next when you find a vulnerability? There is like the main four things that you can do. You're probably a good person, so you want to go through the regular process. The first one is the vendors, which I mentioned. The second one is bug bounty, which has become very popular. The third one is brokers. It's companies that buy the vulnerability and sell it to somebody else. And there is the dark side. Those companies that are a bit shady or sometimes very shady, saying to you, give me your vulnerability, we'll give you a lot of money, but you have no clue or idea where it goes to. So let's start with the easiest one, the most obvious method of getting your vulnerabilities disclosed. So it's vendors. You contact them. How do you contact them? So they may have an email like security@company name. You may know somebody, a friend that works there. You may send an email a message on Twitter, contact them on Facebook, reach out to their bug bounty website if they have one. There is a lot of ways, but it's difficult because there is no standard process. There is no one way, one single point of contact, one person that you'll talk to him, and he knows this process because he's done it before. So, okay, let's say you got an email or you wrote it on Twitter. Now there is even more difficulties. In many cases, when you find a vulnerability, you're talking to a company that, in most cases, they're not native to your country. So in this case, you're Spanish, you're talking to a company in the US, they're talking to a company in China, in Taiwan. Their language would be different. You both don't speak the same language literally, like you speak Spanish, they speak English, or they speak Chinese. As well as when you send a lot of these emails to companies, you're reaching the wrong people. You get emails from support, you get email from a salesperson. He doesn't have any clue what a code execution is. Is it serious? Is it something he should take care of? He doesn't know what information disclosure means. Like, is it knowing the password, is it a bad thing? How did you know the password? Like, is it easy to know a password? He has no means of understanding. And another thing is that at that point, when you start contacting them and getting this kind of questions from the salesperson, or because of the language barrier, different emails trying to understand what you're meaning, is that you probably have a job. You are a student or you have a full-time job. You don't have time to send these emails. And this is an example of an email chain that I've been doing for 3 months trying to get a vulnerability fixed. It's the same guy that says that there was no vulnerabilities. When I continuously said to him, okay, you need to fix it, he gradually understood, but it took me, this is like half of the emails I sent to him, and this is over the course of 3 months, going back and forth, sending him emails. And you as a security researcher, you don't have time. You need somebody to help you do this. It's not easy for you, or as a one-person guy, to solve this on your own. You need somebody to do it. And you don't want to also spend so much time on fixing something where you get, in the end, a hat, where you get $300 in Amazon gift card. You won't want to spend so much time. And also, there is no guarantee that at the end of this process, this information will even be published, or even the vendor will take it seriously enough for him to patch it. Let's say you reach the point where they accept the vulnerability and you get the patch out. In many cases, you have no control over the process at that point. You're usually out of the blue, you get a notification that it was patched. You may be getting like a firmware or a patch that you can download and test again, but you may be testing it again and finding out it's not working. It's the patch that they did is stupid. They blocked parameter A, but parameter B was not blocked because they thought that only parameter A was vulnerable. The patch cycle may be taking months. For example, actually this is an example of some way shorter than usual, but it's still 3 months to get a very simple vulnerability fixed. It's a very simple one-line patch that took 3 months to get resolved, which for a researcher is discouraging. You're waiting, and in the end, it takes like 3 months for a one-line fix. Another thing is that in many cases, researcher reach is bureaucracy. With the guy that I was having this discussion for many months, at one point he said to me, okay, if you continue sending me email, I'm going to move this to the legal department and we'll sue you for finding those vulnerabilities because we didn't give you any permission. And you as a researcher, one person, you don't have a lawyer. You don't know if he's serious. You don't have the expertise to say, you know what, sue me, I don't care. You need somebody to back you off. And this is some of the things that the program that we run, the security and security disclosure, we help you to do that. We prevent you from getting sued. We keep you anonymous. We keep you protected. But you see, this is another problem that you have with bureaucracy related to vendors. Another thing that could happen is that you find a vulnerability in, like for this example, in American Airlines. You tell them, look, I found this way. I can get like gold status on your airline. Gold status is like it's a high-level status for the frequent flyer program for American Airlines. And their reaction, instead of saying thank you, is they block your American Airlines card. They send you cease and desist. Cease and desist is like stop doing what you're doing or we'll sue you. And they basically remove his rights from the American Airlines miles that he had, which is like money. Instead of saying thank you, that was the reaction. This is not atypical. This is a typical behavior of vendors, to be first fire all cannons, try to get the researcher to not do what he's doing, prevent him from continuing. They want you to not do the research, not disclose that they're vulnerable. And this is part of because they're a big company and they don't know how to handle this kind of behavior. Another problem is that we see, this is an example of a vulnerability found in PwC. PwC is a law firm that has built this software. And you can see on the timeline that every time the researcher informed the company, you have a vulnerability, they sent him back a letter from their lawyers that he needs to stop. And then he said, okay, so I'll be releasing the information because you guys don't care. And their reaction was say, okay, wait, we want to know the information. He sent them the information again. And then again, they sent him the cease and desist, like stop doing what you're doing. In the end, he gave up and just released the information to the public saying like, you know, do whatever you want. You don't want to fix it, no worries, I'll just release it. So you as a researcher won't be able to fight this. This would be like very scary for you. Another thing is that I don't know exactly what the legal situation is in Spain, if you're allowed to do security research, if you're allowed to do security testing for products without permission. A lot of this is like legislation. You usually don't have enough time to look up the law books, and you need somebody to tell you if it's legal or when it's not illegal to do regularly, how you can do it legally. Like, what are the things you need to have in order to do this legally? Maybe you need some kind of agreement. Maybe you need some kind of paper that says, I'm doing this because I want to help the vendor. I'm not trying to extort them. There is a lot of things that you need to do when you want to do security research and get paid for it when you're not invited in an agreement, like a penetration test or something like that. And also, a lot of countries, there is additional laws preventing you from finding vulnerabilities that are related to privacy. Like if you find some vulnerability related to credit card information, to full name addresses, like in Germany, for example, full name and address is illegal to obtain. So if you find a vulnerability on a German side through an SQL injection, you can get the full name and address. That would be illegal, even if you're trying to help the vendor. Another thing that could be illegal is that some countries don't allow you to develop exploits, where the wording exploit is a bit vague, but it means that you make it weaponized. So if you want to do the right way to do the security research and get paid for it, you would need somebody to consult on at what point you need to stop doing the research. Like, where is the maximum thing I need to do in order to prove that the vulnerability is there without getting into trouble. And this is something that is well known. You just need to look it up. But as a researcher, you may not be so interested in looking it up. You can, of course, look it up, but it's time-consuming to find. Another solution that tries to solve this problem of getting paid for vulnerabilities is bug bounties. The bug bounty movement has started when some researchers came forward and said, we're not giving any vulnerabilities anymore. It's a famous lecture that they gave where they were disclosing a vulnerability, and just at the point where they said, okay, this is how you exploit the vulnerability, they said, we decided we will not be giving any free bugs anymore. We know all the details. I'll do a demo. Here is the demo. They showed how they were pawning this Oracle web server, and we're not showing you anything else because we want Oracle to understand that if they want this vulnerability, they need to pay for it. And this was the first spark, basically, to creation of bug bounties. And the problem with that is that in the end, bug bounties is just a name. Oracle's bug bounty, Microsoft bug bounty, Apple bug bounties are different. Different rules, different payouts, different ideas of what a bug is. HackerOne, BugCrowd, all of these create different rules for different companies of what a bug is. So you might be finding something, an XSS, a persistent XSS, pre-authentication, sounds very good for you, but the company does not accept XSS as vulnerabilities. They say, unless it's remote code execution, we don't care. And I'll show an example in a few more slides about that. And also another problem with bug bounties is you're submitting full information, complete technical details, exploit, everything you need to the bug bounty, and then the vendor can say, I'm not accepting it. And he has all the information. He can say, I'm not accepting it, and start fixing it in the background, saying, okay, go guys, start fixing it. And then he says, I'm not accepting it. And you have no control over that in bug bounties. You have no way to dispute it. I personally reported a vulnerability, a high-risk vulnerability, allowing you to password reset WordPress passwords without knowing the current password. And it's been sitting in WordPress for 9 months now, and I cannot get them to admit that they have the vulnerability and patch it, which is, for me, more important. And I've been chasing them, for months, and it's not moving forward. And I have no idea how to solve this, because the only way to contact WordPress security guys is through the bug bounty program that they have. Another thing is that a lot of cases, what happens with bug bounties, like what happened to me with WordPress, is that they get unhandled, ignored. You're sending this email, or you're posting this website, your description, and that's it. Nothing happens. You connect again after a week, after 2 weeks. You write a comment, guys, what's going on? Nothing. And then there is a button there saying, okay, do you need assistance from HackerOne or BugCrowd? You click yes, and then you see the title says, if it's related for the vendor not answering, or the vendor not responding, or the vendor not patching, don't contact us. We cannot help you with that. We can only help you if you're not getting paid for accepted vulnerabilities. So you're kind of lost. You don't have any way to moving forward from that point. Another thing is that in many cases, it's a website in the end. Let's say it's not bug bounty like BugCrowd and HackerOne, but it's a website where you submit a form, a support ticket, like a GitHub issue that you report. It's a website. There is no way to escalate it further. You don't have an email of a person. You don't even, if you call them up, you don't even know who you reported this. You're like in the blank. And there is actually also another example is that when you do submit it, in the end, with the bug bounties, you get nothing. You get shirts, you get hats, you get stickers, you get a thank you letter, you get maybe an upgrade to your account that you have there, which you opened only in order to do like security testing. You don't really care what the product is. Or you, in the case of this guy, you get a reward for use after free, which can be exploited for command execution, and you get $1,000. And obviously, if you guys know what a remote code execution can do, it's worth more than $1,000 for sure. Even if the product is not very widespread, for the vendor, having that kind of vulnerability is a very serious issue. Also, in many cases, bug bounties give you a title like saying, oh, great report, thank you very much. This is in the case Google, which does an excellent job of accepting vulnerabilities, but they kind of pay out very low sums. So they say it's a good job, great report. It allows you to account hijack using XSS, which is very serious for Google. Google lives in the web. There is no product. So if you can find an XSS that allows you to hijack an account, it's a serious matter. And in the end, it's at $2,500, and Google has a lot more money. They pay their researchers a lot more than $12,000 a month. I'm pretty sure there's like researchers that get a lot more than that. And in the end, this kind of vulnerability was discovered by somebody outside of the company. So he should be getting paid much more. Another problem with bug bounties, like for example for the Google, which do publish their statistics, is that they get on a per week basis 150 reports, 150 people reporting vulnerabilities to them. They only have 6 minutes to spend on each report. So think of it, you're spending weeks finding this vulnerability, understanding that it's a serious issue. You do want to get paid for it, so you're sending it this because Google has a bug bounty program. But Google, on their hand, because they were so overwhelmed, they only have 6 minutes to spend on it, which is really ridiculous. Like in 6 minutes, can you really understand the technical aspects? And they're so frustrated, even the guys that are doing this kind of analysis of bug reports, that they rotate the people on a weekly basis so they don't get exhausted because they don't have enough time per vulnerability to really understand it. So they're working under pressure, and it's not working well. Another thing is that some bug bounties have ridiculous prices for things. So Yahoo has this, I don't know how to call it, a really ridiculous bug bounty program where you get, for cross-site scripting in Yahoo, $12.50. And I don't kid you, this is a real post, you can look it up. And I think $12.50, I wouldn't send an email for $12.50. I would just publish it online and whatever. And this is their official pricing, which doesn't make any sense. After Yahoo was breached a few years ago, I think like 2 years ago, they were severely breached. A lot of their accounts information was stolen. They should be taking security a lot more serious than this kind of reaction. So the conclusion is, in the end, if you want to get a T-shirt, you want to get a sticker, you want to get an upgrade for your system, like if you're using like Dropbox, they will upgrade you to 1 terabyte of storage. You should do the bug bounties, that's the way to do it. You're not necessarily going to get your research published, and it's really time consuming. So what is the next step? So what happened after those bug bounties, the original one, didn't work quite well? We came to the bug bounty platforms. The idea with big bug bounty platforms is that there was more control to the researcher. It was more oriented per vendor, so it's not one global system to all the bug bounties, and each one of the vendors could make their own rules and more control. But then people started using it, and they came to conclusions that it's not working well. If you look up this title, you'll find that there is a review of all the bug bounties and why they don't work. This guy, what he did, he found vulnerabilities in different vendors. He found which bug bounty platforms they use, and then he used this information which he got to do an assessment of the bug bounties. And he found very interesting findings. In the end, if you look at the middle sentence, in the end, you're spending hours, he's saying it, you're spending hours finding vulnerabilities in target, only to find that the other side, the vendor, doesn't care, he doesn't understand, doesn't want to pay, and he's basically trying to avoid doing anything with the information you're sending it. So obviously, it's not working. But just so you understand what bug bounty platforms are, is they try to find a different approach. They want to make it so it's easy for the researcher. They want to make it so it's easy for the vendors. They want to offer this to small companies and big companies. You won't find Microsoft there, but you will find a lot of companies that are medium-sized. They want to give researchers fast access to their reports, and they want to give some kind of reputation. One of the things that BugCrowd and HackerOne do, they do like a best hacker table where they give the names of the best hackers, and those best hackers are measured. They are like defined by the number of reports that they hand in, how serious that vulnerability is based on criteria. Like XSS gets 1 point, RCE gets 2 points. I'm just giving ideas. It's not exactly what they do. And also how popular the product is. And in the end, one of the last criteria is how much you get paid. So obviously, if you get paid more, the vulnerability is worth more, so you get higher up in the rating. So a lot of the guys that work with those Hall of Fame, BugCrowd, and HackerOne type of sites their goal is to get at the top of the level so they can get famous, obviously looking for a job or looking to get hired, because that is the end goal of getting published and PR'd. So was the problem solved in the end for doing bug bounties? It doesn't solve anything, because in the reality, this is the type of things that you get from HackerOne and Bugcrowd type of bug bounties. So I gave the example of Dropbox. So they said to him that we fixed the vulnerabilities and we decided to upgrade you to 100 gigabyte, not even 1 terabyte Dropbox account, which for Dropbox to give you 100 gigabyte is like nothing. It's like, I think they charged like $30 a year. So they gave him like, what, $30? And I'm sure Dropbox pays less for the upgrade. Cloudflare actually gave an even more funny prize. They gave this guy the ability to put his site behind Cloudflare. That was their prize. They gave him a shirt and the ability to put his account behind Cloudflare, which is, for a researcher, he doesn't really care. I don't think he wanted an account in Cloudflare. I think he opened the account in Cloudflare in order to find the vulnerabilities, not the other way around. So silly prizes. Another one is $2,000 that allowed you to view any information on the site for any user. And it's by Slack. I don't know if you guys know Slack. Slack is like a chat. Oh. Slack is like a chat system. It's used by a lot of companies. We, Beyond Security, use it for in-company chat. So it's a very serious thing if you could read what we write in the chat in between ourselves. Remember when I said that some companies don't accept certain types of vulnerabilities? So this company does the most ridiculous bug bounty ever. They only pay, and listen to this, only XSS. If you find anything else, code execution, information disclosure, directed traversal, anything else, they don't pay. So people started doing things like that, like, okay, here, I'll shell execute something. I'll run some kind of command. Do you accept it? No, we don't accept it. I'll run calculator. Here, I popped up calculator. This researcher, he popped up calculator from the web server. He accessed, and he popped up calculator on the server side. They didn't accept it, only if it was XSS, which is just stupid. It doesn't make any sense for them. And actually, Managed Agent is one of the worst products I've seen in relationship to doing vulnerability patching and vulnerability mitigation. They have dozens of open vulnerabilities that we opened, and I know there is a lot of collisions of vulnerability found in this product, because a lot of researchers come to us and saying, we found this vulnerability in them, and then I just ask them, is it one of these 12 vulnerabilities? And they say yes, and they don't come back. They say, okay, well, never mind. And it's really funny, because I've been having these vulnerabilities open in my inbox to get addressed for almost a year and a half now, and they've not fixed it. So if you're thinking of finding vulnerabilities in this product, think elsewhere. You will find it, but it's nobody going to pay for it, because it doesn't really matter. The company doesn't care. Another thing is that a lot of these vendors that use bug bounties, they use this as a means of not paying anything, not wanting to improve their products. They're just doing it because managements ask them, oh, I read in the newspaper, we have to have a bug bounty. What do? They look up bug bounty on the internet. They find HackerOne, Bugcrowd as the... There is other companies. I'm not trying to stress that those are the only two companies or that they're bad in comparison to other companies. I'm just giving them as an example because they're the most common one. So they look up bug bounties on the internet. Those are the two hits, the first two hits that you get. They open a site. They sign up. It costs a few $1,000s to start for a year contract with them. And that's it. They don't need to do anything. At that point, they can stop answering emails. They have the bug bounty program. They can direct people that find vulnerabilities to that site, but they don't have to do anything else. And this is actually what happens with one of the guys that reported a vulnerability through the bug bounty program. He got no answer. And when he did get an answer, they said, no, we're not interested. Or they said to him, we don't understand how this is a real-world vulnerability. So it's another problem. Another vulnerability that, another example, I'm giving a lot of examples so that I don't sound like I'm talking about things that are not happening in real life. This is another example for a HackerOne report. Ubuntu is it's a device that, it's a router, a home router. One of the things that you can do with that device is you can remotely manage it when you're away from home. So think of it, you'll have this router at home. You don't want to open it to the internet because then people will hack you. you can't tell it, okay, use the Ubuntu website to allow me to do remote management through the Ubuntu website. So this guy found that he took 2 vulnerabilities and he could access the website. Like any user he gave, he would access the website. And this is very serious. So if you're using the product and he's using the vulnerability, he accesses your router remotely. You just configure it, accept any connection from it, tunnel it into your network, and that's it. He's in your network. And you won't even notice because he's doing it on their website, on a Ubuntu website that is managing your router. And they gave him $500. The router itself, the entry price for the router, the Ubuntu router, the cheapest one is $500. So they basically gave him one of their products. That's it, which is silly. It doesn't make any sense that they would do it. So just some kind of reality check on what bug bounties and vulnerability research vulnerability researchers handing in vulnerabilities to vendors and what they do. So the first one is that the rules change all the time. Some companies don't accept XSS. Some companies accept XSS, so you don't have no idea of what to check, what to find, how much you get paid for those vulnerabilities. You are not contacting the security team. At the best case scenario, you're contacting a support guy. Yes, you contact the people from one location, so it's kind of helpful. You don't need to go and start looking around. And you gain reputation. Well, it's kind of because you're getting this Hall of Fame thing, but in many cases, the vendors, when they pay you out, they say to you, oh, look, we're going to pay you out, but you're not allowed to talk about this vulnerability. You're not allowed to publish it. We will publish an advisory, and then when the advisory comes out, we'll allow you to publish it. And in some cases, I've seen they don't publish any advisory even years after the vulnerability has been patched. The major downside of bug bounty programs in general is that you as a researcher have no force. You have no ability to control anything. You report your vulnerability and you hope that it's going to get published and patched. You probably cannot. I've not seen it where you can say, I'm not accepting your compensation. So you'll get a shirt, T-shirt, some kind of a few $100s, a gift card. You'll get some upgrade to the account, and you have no way of disputing that because once you hand it in, you're not allowed to do anything else with that vulnerability. It's actually in the contract that you sign with those bug bounties is that you're not allowed to publish that information. You have no way of enforcing the vendor to do anything, not pay more money, not to publish the information, not to fix it. You hand in the information and that's it. Another thing is that reputation side of the things, you only get reputation based on that table. You're not allowed to publish, in many cases, the report unless the vendor published it as well. And you still need to contact the vendor. You're doing a lot of work. You're going to that portal. You're handing in information. You're answering questions if they have one. You need to recheck your things if they ask you what firmware, what version you have. It's a lot of work. So the conclusion about bug bounties, and then I'll move to the next subject, is that it's a step. It's an advance from before, but it's still not solving a lot of things. And there's a lot of vendors and a lot of third-party companies that are not allowing you to do bug bounties. They don't have bug bounties, and there is nobody else in the middle saying this vulnerability is worth more. This vulnerability is not so stupid as the vendor saying it. There is nobody in the middle saying this needs to be addressed by the vendor. I'm giving you 90 days to fix it, and this needs to be done. It's not something that it's being done at the moment. So before I jump to where the solution is, I'm just going to briefly give you an idea of what the dark side is, because a lot of people are like thinking, okay, this guy is sitting on stage, actually standing on stage. He's saying a lot of things about bug bounties. He's probably from the dark side. He wants something else. So I'll show you what the dark side is, and so you understand. These are the example of dark side emails, correspondence. Skyline, the guy that is written here, is a very famous researcher. He does a lot of security research. He's very talented, and he gets on an almost weekly basis an email, a message, a Twitter on real emails about getting paid a lot of money for vulnerabilities. And you get the idea of the emails is always they're sent from like shady websites, like domains that you never heard of, or domains that are like proxy anonymizers. They describe in usually bad English what they want. They promise a lot of money. They're not hiding the fact they're going to pay a lot of money. They usually say, contact me through some third-party website, some third-party chat system, and they say, almost always, we'll pay you immediately. Don't worry about it. Just send us the vulnerability, and we'll pay you immediately. They don't argue about anything, which always makes it even shadier. Another example of a shady transaction is Alicia. She's also a very talented Russian researcher. She does a lot of vulnerability research. And this guy was trying to say, can you confirm that this vulnerability was used on this website, which was really strange. Like, why would somebody contact her and try to see if she can find that vulnerability or confirm that that vulnerability was used on that website, unless they wanted her to hack something, or anyway, it's a really shady case. So what do you do now? And this is like the third part and last part of my lecture, is what is the right way to do it? So first of all is to do some kind of guaranteed payment system in a escrow process. You pass the information, the vendor passes the money to the company that validates the information, and once both sides have confirmed the process, the transaction completes. There is no negotiation after the fact, after they got the vulnerability, how much you're going to pay. There is no delay in payment because the vendor decided not to pay. It's done in an escrow process. You want a quick response. You want somebody, a person, to answer your emails, to answer you via Signal, which is an encrypted chat program. You want them to answer you via SMSs, whatever message you want. You want it to be discreet. You want it to be supporting PGP encryption. SSL is not encryption. SSL is not a way of encrypting data. You want the person you're talking to report, you want to report him to vulnerability in an encrypted way. So if by some means in the middle it gets into the wrong hands, nobody will be able to open it. You want a person to answer your questions. When will I get paid? Is this vulnerability being taken care of? I reported this a month ago. What's going on? You want somebody to answer and not an automated email. Yes, thank you for reporting. Yes, thank you for reporting. Yes, thank you for reporting. We want something more than that. And you want to be able to negotiate all aspects, price, details, when it's going to be released, how it's going to be released. Will you be anonymous when it's going to be released? Will your name be published? Can they put a link to your website? Can they use your Twitter? Can you tweet on it? Can you talk to your friends about it? Can you give a lecture in some kind of conference? This is important things for you as a researcher. You want to get more than just money. Yes, money is a goal, but in many cases you want to do more, you want to get more, and you want access to more control over what you're doing. Also, another thing is that you want to get paid. I've seen a funny post by a guy that found vulnerabilities in Victoria's Secret's website, and they offered him gift cards of Victoria's Secret, which is kind of funny because unless he has a girlfriend or maybe his mom, it has nothing to do with those gift cards. But from my perspective, if a researcher wants to get paid in Amazon gift cards, in PayPal, in wire transfer, in Bitcoin, whatever the method of payment he wants to do, for whatever reason he wants to do, we should help him do that. It's not something that he needs to fight for, he needs to ask for, because in the end, he wants to get paid in a means that is easy for him to get the money. He doesn't want to get the hassle. I'm not saying that necessarily that it's a legal thing. Like, I don't think it's illegal to get money in Bitcoin. If he doesn't report that to the IRS or to the tax, he's evading tax, that's his problem. But from my perspective, he needs to get paid in a method that is easy for him. Also, he needs to get things that are besides money. In many cases, researchers like to go to training courses, which cost a lot of money. He wants to go to seminars. He wants to fly to conferences. He might not have enough money to fly and go to a conference, like flying to a conference from Spain to Canada, or like Recon, which are very well-known reverse engineering conference, will cost him the flight fare to Canada, getting a visa if he needs one, getting an entry ticket, which can cost $2,000 easily, maybe going to the course, which will cost another $3,000, and he wants that money in order to get paid, or he wants somebody to sponsor it. Also, a lot of researchers don't have the means to do research. They don't have the hardware, maybe the router that they want to find vulnerabilities in. They don't have the jailbreak system. They don't have like a JTAG reader. They don't have a sniffer. I don't know, a lot of things. They don't have the software. IDA Pro costs money. Visual Studio, yes, the community version is free, but if you want to do more, you need the full version of Visual Studio. You need maybe another computer to run some cracking system or fuzzing system. So all these things cost money. And this is also things that you want to get besides getting money. In summary, there is a lot of pitfalls, a lot of problems into getting your research published and getting paid for it. The path to disclosure and paid vulnerabilities is difficult. You can use this presentation to see what you could expect from this process, so you can understand. If you know what you expected, it's easier for you to prevent those kind of problems. And the most important thing is that one of the things that we do, as I mentioned at the beginning, is we do this brokerage. We connect researchers with vendors, and we get them paid. We get them the ability to do their security research published. Their security research get paid, get entry tickets to the event. For example, in this conference, we let 5 of security researchers that work with us get in for free. We flew them here, so they also got reimbursement on the flight. We do the same for other conferences. If you follow us, you'll see it. We offer our researchers hardware and software that they can use in order to get their research published, as well as finding those vulnerabilities. And the most important thing that I see, I remove all the hassle from them of contacting the vendor, fighting with the vendor to get it published, publishing the information, getting them credit, getting them paid what it means they want. We solve a lot of those problems. And it's basically very easy. You just need to send us an email, tell us this is what I have. We'll ask you some questions and say, okay, this is what we are willing to pay for it, if it does this, if it does that. And that's it. You can decide at that point, do you want to continue? Do you want to go elsewhere? We don't force you to send us the information beforehand. We don't ask you to tell us everything, disclose the vulnerability. It's not like that. Because remember, we are connecting you with a vendor. So in the end, we're not the guys who are going to fix it. We have to pass the information to somebody else. I'll be happy to answer if you have any questions. But that's the end of the lecture.
Questions? Hay una allí. Espera, te doy el mío.
Hi, thank you for the lecture. It was very insightful. Just a quick question.
Yes.
Maybe you have tried this in the past, so I'm just going to give you my fast food approach to this. Have you considered enforcing a price table, as in you would actually set forward a bug bounty kind of slot with different prices based on difficulty, and then just plain offering that to both sides?
The problem with that is that, let's say a remote code execution in product A and product B, it's very hard to give the same price or one price for both of them. If you find a remote code execution in a product that a million people use, the price for that will be higher than a product that nobody heard of. So when we tried to give like fixed prices in the beginning, when we did this project, the fixed price was just too difficult to maintain. Like the guy would find something that is way serious than the price we gave, and he said, okay, they're going to pay only $1,000. I don't want to even approach them. So from my perspective, I want the researcher to come to me. I'll tell him, this is what I think it is, and he will say, I want twice as much. I'll say, let me talk to the vendor, and then I'll work with the vendor and try to convince him. But in the end, you have to remember the decision is by the vendor. So if I give a price of $100,000 for something and the vendor says, I'm not willing to pay that, it's a loss for both sides. So from my perspective, it is more of a negotiation. The researcher tells me I want at least $3,000. I go to the vendor and say to him, are you willing to pay $3,000? Obviously, the researcher needs to think way ahead. Is this an acceptable price, or is it too low, or is it an entry price? He needs to tell me this. Otherwise, I cannot fight for him to get them as much money as he gets. And I know what your next question is what we get from it, which I already saw it on your face. The vendors pay us a fixed price. No matter what type of vulnerability we give them, they pay us a fixed price. So from my perspective, I don't get a 10% if you pay $3,000, and the vendor knows this as well. So he doesn't say, oh, that NOAM from Beyond Security wants me to pay $50,000 because he gets like $5,000 from it. It's not like that at all. So we get a fixed price from vendor for every vulnerability that we publish, and report to them, and this is their incentive for us to work with them. Okay.
More questions do you have? I have one.
Yes.
I have two, really.
Okay, so that's one because
you know the concept of ethic banking?
Oh, no.
It's the typical bank that all the investment is made only in things that are considered ethical.
Okay.
And all the money
Who decides what ethical is?
Well, yeah, this is a very interesting
Because
question.
I remember ethical hacking.
Are you answering my question with another question?
Yes, that's part of the things I do.
Okay, my point is, is there a possibility of having a vulnerability market where I can say this, I will sell this thing only to ethical actors? I don't want governments, I don't want police enforcement, I don't want that.
I guess you can. Look, the idea behind the bug bounties, the official ones, is that you're in contact directly with the vendors. But vendors have zero incentive of getting vulnerability reports and fixing vulnerabilities because that's not generating any money. You know what generates money for vendors is selling. Vulnerabilities in their product is not turning down sales. It's not making it less likely to get sales. So from their perspective, it's not interesting. And who is willing to pay it is like people that get hurt. And because you and me won't pay for it independently, it's governments and police agencies. They don't want an ISP to get owned completely. It's a government that is using a product that like Joomla or Drupal and using it all over. They don't want a vulnerability to get disclosed. So they're buying this information in order to protect themselves defensively about it. And also, ethically, I've been there. I'm old enough to remember when people were talking about black hats. Usually, back in the day, black hat was the guy that was sitting in the basement hacking banks. White hat was the guy sitting in an office finding vulnerabilities. But today, everybody talks about black hat and as is a security researcher. Nobody thinks of it. And back then, people were saying ethical hacker has to get permission in order to find vulnerabilities. And today, it's no longer present. Nobody talks about it. You find vulnerabilities, you report them, right? So I think ethics change all the time. And until vendors' ethics change, where they say, give us the vulnerabilities, we want to fix them, until then, somebody has to pay it. And only governments and big companies that use software extensively can pay the money that researchers want to get.
So my next question is, we are talking about bug bounties and this kind of models, paying after someone has a vulnerability to sell.
Yes.
What about having a seed capital investment on researching vulnerabilities? For example, you have a bag full of bugs.
Yes.
And you have, for example, $100,000.
Yes.
And you say, I have this money, and I'm interested in researching in these areas, these products and these languages and whatever. Okay.
Right.
So I will invest in a team to research for this, and I will reward them after funding things, like a business angel or seed capital, but on vulnerability research.
It's a great idea. I'm not joking. It's a great idea, and it's been tried before. But the problem with that is that, let's say you have $100,000. What happens when the money runs out and people have vulnerabilities? What do you do with those vulnerabilities?
You pass them to the market, play the rules of the market.
So I'll tell you what happens in real life. In real life, they publish it, so there is 0 days now on the market. Those researchers didn't get paid. The researchers published that information because they got upset. I didn't get the money. And it's happening every year in Pont2Own. If you know the contest in Pont2Own in Kansec, they do this contest, but there's a limited amount of winners because there's only one winner per category. And there is more people joining in than one person. So what happens in the end is they have to sell it to somebody because they know that if they keep it in their pocket, basically, those vulnerabilities, they won't earn anything for all their efforts. So that capital version, it's not working in real life. It's been tried, but it's not working. It has a problem of what happens to the people that don't get paid before the money runs out.
I get the picture. Let me think about this.
Yes. So the solution that we do is when we send this to the vendor, we tell them, if you're not quick enough to fix it, you need to accept this vulnerability. You cannot say, oh, we're working on something else. You need to release a patch as quickly as possible. So it's his loss when he doesn't fix things quickly enough, even if another remote code execution comes in.
I get. More questions about bug bounties? And there are one.
Yeah. The question is, let's say I have something to report. I do it, I give it to you, so you negotiate with the vendor.
Yes.
Then we get to a price.
Yes.
I tell you the vulnerability. Do I actually get in contact with the vendor?
You don't have to get in contact with the vendor. You can be CC'd on the emails that we send to the vendor, so you can have complete visibility. Or I can update you, not me personally, my company can update you on the process, so you can see what's going on, status reports, you can ask us questions. If we don't get an answer from the vendor, we'll pick up the phone and call them. We always have a contact person in the company that is responsible for those vulnerabilities to get patched. But you don't have to do anything after you gave us the information, you get paid. Once you get paid, you can sit back and find the next vulnerability or go on vacation or do whatever you want. You don't have to do anything.
What guarantee do I have that you only sell it to the vendor and not to
After 90
else?
days, we publish the information. So that's, if it doesn't get fixed, it's published after 90 days. So that's your guarantee that it was reported to the vendor.
But only to that vendor?
What do you mean only to that? Is he the only one affected? Vendors are usually one vendor that is affected.
Well, but you could sell it anywhere else and actually profit from that.
Well, I've been doing it for 7 years. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've never heard any rumor. Rumors always exist, but I've not sold this to anybody. This is not the type of work that we do. There is a need for trust. Like, I can give you the opposite direction, is that a lot of researchers, I have always the fear, especially when they're new researchers, that they're selling it to us and to other companies, maybe contacting the vendors, and they're trying to get as much money for that vulnerability from different approaches. What kind of guarantee do I have from you as a researcher that you're not selling it to somebody else, or it's even stolen research? I have no guarantee. It's a matter of trust.
Yeah, true. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Another question? We have one. Another one. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bueno, esta mañana hemos hecho un anuncio muy interesante. Abel, por favor. Abel ha salido elegido por vosotros mejor ponente de la edición del año 2016. La charla fue muy interesante sobre bootloaders y boot hijacking y pues bueno, yo creo que lo mereces. Aquí tienes el premio oficial de RootedCon. Es un candado abierto. Gracias. Esto es mármol aragonés, ¿vale? Te lo digo porque los aragoneses somos muy cabezones y pesamos mucho, ¿vale? Y luego tenemos aquí, ya sabéis que el mejor speaker de RootedCon siempre